All right. Welcome to the latest edition of the FPL America podcast. This is
Travis Hoig.
And Brian Shesko, David Smith, MIA, somewhere in Hilton Head, South Carolina.
Not Georgia.
Not Georgia. Dave is visiting the South Carolina's loudest waterfall as we speak.
Oh, jeez.
Right now.
See, that joke doesn't even hit because nobody got to listen to last episode.
Don't care. And I still feel like it's worth saying that he's visiting a waterfall in South Carolina as if that exists. Travis, we're here because game week 19 happened.
It did.
We are now into the new year. Happy New Year.
Hey, thanks. You too.
Game week 20 is just around the corner, and there might be a few decision-making things that you need to do.
True.
Heading into the next game week, and so we were going to talk about a few of those things. You want to jump right into it, or do you want to hear a story?
Well, I want to before you. I do want to hear a story first,
okay.
But I also want to acknowledge the travesty that occurred last week.
Okay.
I honestly thought we had a pretty good episode.
Oh, yes. Okay.
In the moment, like at the end of it, I was like, all right, great. That was actually really good. I felt like we really engaged each other well. Our content was solid. It was a good episode.
Yeah.
Now, looking back on it, we had two major flaws with that thinking that I had at the time. Mm-hmm. Number one, we were wrong about a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. Which we'll talk a little bit about. And number two, we had an equipment failure.
Okay. Yeah.
That snuck up on us. We had some signs. I ignored them all.
Okay.
Probably because I was drinking.
Okay.
And so apologies to anybody that tried to listen. I put a warning on the episode. I published it anyways, but It was terrible. So Dave, who's not here, he's away, as Brian mentioned, was sitting next to a waterfall, and we tried to do a whole bunch of stuff to try and make the waterfall noises go away. He refused to move. He was too comfortable. Whatever. Anyways, all to say, sorry, guys.
Look, if you've come to expect anything from this podcast, the number one thing you come to expect is iffy advice.
Yeah, true.
But the second thing is fairly good audio and video quality when everybody's in the same room. The experiment for multiple call in multiple locations. We'll have to work out the kinks in that one. So.
Or just get Dave to come back.
Yeah, Dave will come back. He'll be here. He'll be here next time.
Tell me your story. I want to hear your story.
So basically, look, like we've talked about it a million times. We are not. We play Fantasy Premier League, but that's not the only fantasy sports that anybody plays. Dave, I don't know, Travis, if you play Fantasy American Fantasy Football, American Fantasy Football. Dave definitely does. Dave and I actually co-managed a team for someone else, which is the weirdest thing that we could possibly do. But this year, it was easily the weirdest result at the end of the year I've ever had in a long-time league with some people that I'm not really friends with, but a couple people I know. One of them is my brother. He's
not friends with him. Yeah,
no, it's brothers, so we're friends enough. And so, but basically, like. I ended up winning the league. I'll just say it that way to start with. So I won the league.
Congratulations!
I won in the most dramatic possible fashion. I won thanks to Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders,
which was a Hail Mary, right?
Well, no, they came back in overtime and won.
It was not Hail Mary.
It was an overtime game, and Jaden Daniels on their final possession in overtime scored a touchdown. He accounted for the touchdown. Basically, I needed a very specific and unlikely string of things to happen for me to get a come-from-behind victory in this league, and they all happened. So just as a casual reminder to anybody who plays FPL, I think we all see this. So much of it really is a luck. Yeah. So much does come down to lucky bounces and did this guy, this decision went your way and this one didn't or whatever. Well, in this case, for my fantasy football league, all of the things I needed to have happen.
How many were there?
How many
things were there that needed to
so,
happen? Was it like 3? Was it 10?
So the final score, and the way the scoring was, the final score was 216 to 212.
Oh.
The go-ahead score, Jaden Daniels throwing the touchdown pass, is what put me at 216. So had he thrown an incomplete pass, it would have been 4th down on that particular play. I think they might not have gone for a touchdown at that point.
Kicked a field goal instead.
They might have kicked a field goal, and that, I think, would not have been enough.
Interesting.
I don't think it would have been enough. It needed to be a touchdown, and that was it. We had no players left to play. Final score 216 to 212. It is easily the best win I've ever had in my life ever doing this. The thing was, the guy I was playing against, when I say I know him, I would say, like, I'm not sure. Maybe he might be listening to this for all I know. It's not no animosity toward the guy or whatever. He's always been fine whenever I've seen him. I've seen him rarely in my life, but whatever. I know who he is. The thing was, in the third quarter, he was pretty far ahead at that point. He changed his team name live. During the third quarter, he changed his team name to the defending champion.
Oh, no.
So when I saw that, I was like, okay, good win, buddy. Of course, like, you win, whatever. Like, I'm like all right, you're gloating. Man. I get it. And so I looked at the score, and I'm like, yeah, he's still pretty far ahead. My brother texted me. He was like, hey, he's pretty pumped. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure he is. Congrats to him. Like, great season. Like, I had made some bad decisions, whatever. But, like, can't do anything about it. So I saw the team name, and I'm like, that's really irritating. But whatever. I hate losing like that. As the game wore on, it kept getting closer and closer. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, I have a shot here. And so the defending champion I'm like, please let him
jumped the shark.
Let him have done this too soon. My brother starts sending me pictures. He was like, hey, did you see what he's adding to, do you see what he's making? And I said, I'm not looking at any chats or whatever. He was taking pictures of my family, photoshopping his face on my face on family photos, as if he was like the daddy, right?
Oh, okay.
And so my brother's sending me these, and I was like, what the heck? I was like, he was like, are you seeing this? And I'm like, no, I'm not seeing this. What are you talking about? Am I seeing this? I didn't see that. And I was like, first of all, weird. Second of all, very funny.
Right.
Okay.
He took it pretty far.
So he sends like 3 of them. And I'm like, what the heck is it? Why is he doing this? Photoshopped his face. So I'm like, so this is the thing where I'm like, if it was somebody that I knew well, it would be like, okay, very funny guy.
This is top tier banter.
Yeah.
But we know the end of the story.
Right. And so as I'm watching this, I am getting like progressively more like, of course, it's frustrated. Increasingly irritated. And then I'm also like, I don't really know you that well to do something. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, all right. So then as like the game's wearing on, I'm like, please, Jaden Daniels. I need Jaden Daniels, whatever. Just the specifics of it. Like, basically, I had 2 players. He had 2 players. I needed Jaden Daniels to do really well without throwing passes to Terry McLaurin, who's the number 1 receiver for the Washington Commanders. Terry McLaurin, 1 catch for 5 yards, like one of the worst games he had in the season. Does absolutely nothing. He also had the running back for the Falcons, Bijan Robinson, which is like he had an awesome game. But I had Drake London, the wide receiver for the Falcons. And so basically I needed Jaden Daniels and Drake London to outscore Bijan Robinson and Terry McLaurin by like 90 points. And they did. All that to say, I've never had a come-from-behind victory of a gap that big in a game that was so like tightly contested, that ended on the last throw of the game, that also happened to be the most curb stompy, in your face. Like, you just spent the last 2 hours like fantasizing a championship in the weirdest possible way, and now you lost.
So what was the react? Did he just go dark?
Changed his name like the next day. I just texted my brother at the end, and I was like, "Hey, has he checked the score now?" Just wondering. Just wondering if the defending champion has checked the score this time. So, of course, my brother was like, "Oh, my goodness, what happened?" And I was like, Jaden Daniels happened. So the next day, he changed his name to Doomed in Overtime. That's it. End of story. Fantasy football brings people together and also pushes them apart in the weirdest possible ways.
This is not an American
it is not
fantasy football podcast, but that is an incredible an incredible
I
passage
have
of
the
events.
Pictures here in my text thread with my brother.
That's hilarious.
I'm not going to post them anywhere or whatever. I might share them with, who knows, maybe share them with someone.
That's
fantasy
funny.
football
That's
professional in America.
That's pretty dark. Pretty dark stuff coming out of a competitor.
Anyways,
so would you ever? I mean, obviously knowing this, so we don't get that serious in our leagues.
No, and I would just say like last year.
I know a lot of people do, but we don't.
I mean, look at the how tightly contested our mini league has been, or the podcast. Our mini league, the podcast league has been close at different times or whatever. Yeah. I cannot imagine anyone in our mini league going onto Facebook, friending someone in the group so that they could Photoshop their own face onto a family photo of someone in the league.
I think you underestimate me a little bit.
Okay. I would like if you pass Dave in this.
No, it can't happen.
In the mini league.
I am so trashed right now.
Yeah, but if you do, will you please Photoshop your face
on his family
on a public photo of Dave from an old Christmas picture or whatever?
You got it.
Okay.
But that's obviously different than your situation. Yes. We know him.
Very different.
But yeah,
very different.
that is so odd.
Okay.
Stranger. All right. I'm gonna have to go look up all the names of all the leaders. Or even just like the random person that's ahead of me right now.
Yeah.
If I can pass them, then I'll just start doing that to everybody that I pass along the way.
Yeah. Who's your daddy?
It's like them and their cat, and I Photoshop my face over there.
And if it's and assuming everyone's
it's my cat now.
Assuming everyone is from an English speaking country, like you could, or if they're not, just pick whatever language it is. Who's your papa? Who's your whatever? Just find the word for dada.
Papa's the one you keep up with.
Who's your papa? Anyway, let's talk about some FPL stuff for real.
Yeah.
Now that we're 10 minutes into this and we've accomplished nothing. Game week 19. First of all, I wanted to say I think that my favorite part of FPL this year so far is that no matter what I do, whether I've banked a transfer or whether I've taken a hit, green arrow or gray arrow or even mild red arrow, I still end up with an overall rank around 1.5 million. No matter what happens any week, it's just the same outcome.
Interesting.
Like this week, who'd you captain this week?
Salah.
Right. So you're smart. I'm dumb. I captained Cole Palmer,
that hurts.
I still was a point above average for the game week.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you must. All right.
Trent is what pushed that one over the top.
You had okay.
But same result, same end result. 1.6 million or whatever is my final overall ranking. It keeps happening like that over and over again.
That's interesting.
With the second wild card now available, I think there's part of me that's like, why not just start all over right this second? But then I look at my team and I'm like, it's not all that bad. It's basically the team that everybody else has. And the reason why I say that, Live FPL, we talked about them numerous times on the podcast. Great tweet from a couple days ago, just to say that Isak plus Palmer plus Salah captain is the 3-person template, making FPL what they're saying is now an 8-player game. So basically, your starting 11 is Isak, Palmer, and Salah plus 8.
So basically, we've gone from Saka to Isak essentially, right?
Pretty much
in terms of what we refer to as the Holy Trinity at that time. Okay,
Isak keeps doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
I think everyone's scared of not having Palmer just because of what he's capable of doing in his big performances, and then Salah's having the best professional season of any professional footballer in the world right now. So,
well, did you see the comparisons to him? Ronaldo and Messi.
No, I did not.
In their best goal and assist return seasons, Salah is outperforming them already.
Wow,
he's on pace to just basically destroy their best seasons.
Wow.
Essentially,
no, I did
even
not.
his own, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
he is doing unreal things.
Yeah, so I don't know how bad your team is or how bad you feel like your team is. I don't feel like my team is bad enough where I can wild card. I see, I don't know, one midfielder and maybe one defender that I would definitely move on. I think everyone, we can talk about it in a second. I think that's the big issues right now, I think, is just because of what's happened with a couple either suspensions or injury issues. I think, you might have some decisions about what to do with some certain players, but yeah, do you feel like you're in any position to wild card right now?
If I wouldn't have had the week that I just had, probably would have.
Good or bad?
Good.
Oh, okay.
I don't take hits like ever. Last 2 weeks I've taken -4s.
Okay.
In order to try to arrest the free fall I was in. Thankfully I've done that. It wasn't as aided by the fact that Saka went out. But I this was something I talked about in last week's episode, which no one heard, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line is I made a lot of mistakes. Chief among those was I held on to Holland to be as a differential.
Yeah.
To be there when the turn happened.
Yeah.
Because no one else was going to be.
Yeah.
Wholly expecting that it wouldn't go on as long as it has or did.
Yeah.
Who knows? And so he had a couple returns in that long, terrible the terrible run that he's on, which was fine.
He did this week too, right?
Yeah, he did. But in the meantime, everybody else is doing good stuff because they got money,
right? And
they got people who are doing it every week, like Isak, right?
Right.
So all that to say, I've done a ton of maintenance at cost to me, and I got to the point I had an 81 this week.
That's really good.
And so I'm at the point where, just like you said, I don't hate my team enough to wild card, but there's definitely work that needs to get done.
What would I have had? If I had not gone Cole Palmer, it would have been an 83. It would have been a plus 14. So that would have been it would have been
lot.
It would have been a much happier day. Probably a bigger green arrow, and not a red arrow at all. So the issues, as I see them, your suspensions that matter. Matheus Cunha finally. We know for sure the suspension. You saw the fake suspension. Did you see that?
No.
It was an account that's notoriously fake, tricked real publications. Talked about him having a 5-match ban. So the Sun got tricked. I think it got the Athletic. I think a bunch of
Athletic surprises me, but the Sun does not. They're trash.
But I would just say I was going to say legit, but I would just say actual. Maybe that's the better.
That's
better way of saying
I appreciate that.
Actual news outlets got duped into someone's fake announcement about Cunha's suspension, but now we know for sure it's 2 games. Plus, we know that he's injured, or at least there's a suspicion of an injury.
He pulled up.
I don't necessarily I'm not even a couple weeks ago. I didn't sell him. I said it a couple weeks ago, and I ended up keeping him. I benched him for his return 2 weeks ago. Played him this week, and of course he gets he comes off early.
The one.
But whatever. So I'm still not like, I'm not necessarily like, oh, I've got to move him on, because we can just debate this as far as like where you would prioritize, but anyway, moving on. Cunha's suspended. Morgan Rogers got his 1-game suspension. I feel like his performances have been too good. I still feel like he's going to be
bench him. Yeah,
I feel like people are still going to be bringing him in more than they're going to be doing,
especially if his price goes down. It'll eventually catch back up. Yeah,
John Duran still now in the middle of his 3-game suspension. Urian Timber today, 5th yellow card. He will be suspended for a game. That's kind of a disappointing one. Yeah. Although I'm not really wild about Arsenal's defensive fixtures going forward. I don't know that I'd be buying him anyway. So yeah, those are some like major names. Like those guys have all been like high level like transfers for
get them.
Like go for them at kind of at all costs
in templates mostly, but yeah.
And Duran and Timber had gotten to that point where they were, maybe not the first guy you were transferring in or whatever. And then the injury things, like we now know, like at least we know how serious Saka's hamstring injury is now.
Yeah. Pictures of him in a hospital bed were not good.
Right. Will be out for at least 2 months was what it was said. The way it was discussed. If it once it was hamstring, he had a procedure. As soon as he had a procedure, that's when there is no way that is
rehab. Got to get back running. There's a lot of muscle, as well as fitness.
I feel like one of the early the concern even whenever he had injured his hamstring before was the fear that it had pulled off the bone, like that the muscle had actually detached from the bone. Yeah, that was one of the which probably is what led to
the procedure.
Yeah, I would guess. So anyway, any of the Saka replacements we'll talk about in a second. Jared Bowen fractured his foot against your guys,
which is wild because he was limping around for a good little bit. He stayed on the pitch for a long time after that injury.
Not to drag the Sun back into this, but Jack Rosser, reporter from the Sun, is one of the people who is reporting that he could miss 2 months. So if you have Jared Bowen, easy sell.
Not very many people were moving back in that direction anyways, but there were some bright spots there.
And then, I think just in general with injuries, like you see what's kind of how Spurs have deteriorated, or maybe more like held it together. It's less of a deterioration, more of like they are somehow still managing to do something despite the fact that like they have 8 or 9 first team injuries, I think. That now it's Van de Ven, it's Romero, it's Udogie, it's Jed Spence, it's Ben Davis now is in the room. Vicario's still at least a month and a half away.
Richarlison.
Odebear I think is getting closer, but either way, that's a bunch of
Bentancur still suspended.
He was back this week. He scored this week. Oh, I thought he was still suspended too, but he's
he's back. Yep, 26.
Danny Welbeck still in under 7% of teams, still dealing with whatever his ankle or foot issue is, a non-consideration prior to this, but just the fact that he's still hurt. No guarantee. Yeah. Murillo from Nottingham Forest, who we've talked about all the Nottingham Forest defenders. You can now kind of I don't know you can necessarily cross him off the list. I still don't. I think it's more of just the fact that he had an adductor issue that is not serious. But it's just it's not like you're buying. Like if you're buying, it's Ola Aina and it's still Milenkovic. Those are the only 2 people you're buying from Nottingham Forest defense. But Murillo was on that list, and then Fabianski and Nick Pope. The fact that you lose, Fabianski was on his way to a haul. I mean, the fact that they won I think they won 1-0. Fabianski had already had his 3 saves by the time he went off. Really disappointing.
It is really disappointing. He's been a very pleasant surprise, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. And then Nick Pope, 3.8% still in teams, but not enough to really matter a ton. And Newcastle kind of flying anyway, so it's not like they're missing a huge thing with him being out or whatever. But
who's their secondary? Because
Dubravka.
Is Dubravka back? Because he was.
I think it's Dubravka. That was my knee jerk reaction because I feel like that's the first name that has always been there. But yeah, he that's crazy. 4 straight sixes for Dubravka since Nick Pope went out. 4-0, 4-0, 3-0, 2-0. Newcastle absolutely rolling in the last 4 games.
John Ruddy there too. That's interesting.
He's 4.2. In case you're wondering about Martin Dubravka and Nick Pope with a sort of unclear return date. So, it's the game is saying January 15th, but that's still whatever.
So, I mean, Spurs, Wolves, Bournemouth. There's no reason why Dubravka's not an option there. That's good.
So, yeah, all of that to say, you're still in the same. I still feel like you're in the same place because really the suspension that matters is Cunha, and that's only because Cunha. Even with Cunha's suspension, he's in 20% of teams, just under 20% of teams. So that's probably the first place that you need to, if you're going to make a replacement, it's going to be for Cunha. I don't know. Saka's down to 12%.
Is he?
Selection. So I think most people who are really paying attention, I don't think there's any reason why you're holding on to him or whatever. But Travis, forwards, are they all bad now? Remember a few weeks ago when we said like every forward
there's like a bunch of them
was an option, and if you're picking now, it feels like you're picking from just a handful of like basically 3 or 4 guys,
which would be Isak, Wood.
That's it. No, like
I mean,
Isak for sure. Like Isak is an essential. He feels like if you don't have him, I'm not sure what you're expecting to get from somebody that's not him.
Nick Jackson's on a dry run.
All the trendy picks from weeks ago. Joao Pedro, he finally did have a hit. He had a good week.
Watkins hit because Duran's out.
If you bought Jesus last week when he was really popular, you were furious, and I'm not sure how many people sold him. But then, of course, this week he has another great game.
Well, and credit to Dave, he did call Jesus as a good pickup. He took a lot of heat from brother Matt on that one, but he came good this week. So
did Dave buy him? I didn't see.
I didn't either. I'm gonna check.
So while you're checking, I want to say just for Joao Pedro, good week, but are we sure that he's good?
What do you mean by that? Are we sure he's good?
The people sure don't seem to believe it yet, and which is odd since he's so cheap, because he's still 5.7. He's only the 9th most transferred in for forwards.
Interesting.
And after a game where he finally gets something, he had 2 assists, so he finishes with 9 points in the game. Here's Joao Pedro since he came back to being a full-time starter. So
he was injured too.
Game week 12, comes back, 36 points since game week 12, sixth overall forward. Okay, that's okay.
Including game week 12.
Yeah, starting game week 12.
Yeah, but it's like a 9 and a 12, and everything else is like a 2.
So 36. 36 points is 6th. Scored 1 goal, whatever. 4 assists. That's number 1. So he's number 1 for assists since game week 12 for forwards. 15 shots is tied for 8th. Not a lot. Like as on volume, not a lot. 5 shots on target, also tied for 8th. Same number as Dominic Calvert-Lewin for reference. 11 shots in the box is the 9th most. Okay. So we're all like everything is like it's like average.
All of this is going to
one big.
Why are we doing this?
One big chance. Bad. And it's especially bad when you consider that Joao Pedro has had 46 touches in the opposition box, which is tied for 4th most. And then he's created 13 chances, which is second only to Alexander Isak. So since game week 12. But I think like
he's So
it's okay. Everything is okay. He's like okay for shots. He's a good real life player. The volume isn't there. Brighton have been pretty mediocre in all of those weeks. Basically every week since game week 13, they've only scored 2 goals twice.
But they're about to go on a run against Ipswich, West Ham, and Leicester.
Right. So I was going to say
a great. Well,
I want to say that Arsenal.
What I got ahead of myself. Sorry. I was going to say, for his price, where are you going? And I was going to say, why not Jimenez, who's about to go on a run of Ipswich, West Ham, Leicester? Yeah. That's what I was trying to say. Knowing that João Pedro is going to go against Arsenal.
Yeah, and I think that's
Ipswich,
probably what's
United.
I think that's probably what's stopping people is that it's Arsenal this week. And so if you're bringing in, so for me, like I looked at it and I'm like, well, I like these. There's still no threat of Welbeck. Evan Ferguson not really anywhere. So João Pedro kind of has the job. The issue is it's like
too,
if I'm replacing Cunha, like I have Morgan Rogers suspended.
You wouldn't go back to Raul Jimenez?
I would think about it. I think I just don't want to get back into a timeshare forward situation. Do you know what I mean?
Who's he timesharing with, though?
With Muniz. So
since when?
Since weeks ago. That's why I sold him.
67, 73, 28, 67, 78, 10. Yeah, he honestly... it's been literally the entire season.
So that's there for a while. He was like the clear starter, and then Muniz kept coming off the bench.
8 and 9, he had 90 minutes.
So Muniz kept coming off the bench and scoring a goal or whatever. So I guess that's why I'm saying like it's not. If I'm replacing Cunha though, and I think this is where if you're one of that 20%, if you have like if you're like me and you've got Bruno Fernandes playing against Liverpool, and you've got Morgan Rogers suspended and Cunha suspended. Yeah. I don't want to bring in João Pedro.
So if they were here, he'd be shouting Jesus.
Arsenal. I'm sure he would.
Point 0.1 more than Cunha is right now.
Yeah,
and he's on fire.
Yeah, that's true. And Jesus, last 3 game weeks. I mean, he's gotten the start the last 3 weeks. Of course, now, I mean, his points are huge. Only Isak and Mo Salah of any players have more points than Jesus in the last 3 game weeks. So,
and that's only including obviously his Premier League numbers. He's scoring outside the Premier League too, which is so it's not limited to that. When he's on the field, he's producing.
Yeah, so and I think
it's worth mentioning.
They did score. I mean, the fact that they scored 3. This week, and they're scoring more goals than I think people maybe were more than I would have expected. They just feel
especially without Saka, yeah,
right. He's only taken 8 shots in 3 weeks. That's fine. I mean, he doesn't need to fill up the stat sheet that way. He's had 3 big chances to score. Miraculously, he's had 2 assists, 2 FPL assists from just 1 chance created, which is amazing. And he's created 0 big chances. So great. I mean, it's
he's in the right place to get a deflection.
Yeah, it's amazing. Did they have a penalty? I'm not sure how that happened, but either way,
could have been, I guess. Wait, what is a penalty class? Is penalty classified as a big chance? If you know. If you get fouled and a penalty's called,
I don't think so.
That's
because I think it's more about I feel like it's more about the proximity of the chance to score as a result of the pass, whatever. I was going to ask Dave how confident he is now about Jesus. He
seems pretty. Honestly, it's just from text message. We haven't talked to him, but he seems pretty confident.
And I would say the schedule. I mean, for attackers, I don't see a downside to it.
Yeah.
At Brighton, home Spurs, home Villa, at Wolves. Manchester City, I think we've now ruled them out.
Leicester, West Ham. Yeah, I mean, it's really not until week 27, game week 27, that they actually face a defense that's going to put up any kind of.
And with Saka, I mean, I feel like we're saying Saka is. I mean, this is months, and that was months just like within the last week that we finally get the final word that this is a month's injury. I think all of these matchups are now Jesus matchups. I think when you get to talk about midfielders, I think Martinelli all of a sudden now I think that kind of changes the perception of Martinelli for a while here.
Probably.
But Jesus for sure, as far as forwards go, I think he should be. I don't know.
Do you think?
I don't know. I don't know that you're expecting a 12 from him
regularly. Yeah.
That happens, but whatever.
So do you think? And this is almost a hypothetical question because you don't know. Dave would. Do you think Timber's suspension will affect Jesus' production? Is there a risk of that because I mean week after week you're talking about the numbers behind Timber's basically the heat map. He's in those forward advanced positions, touching the ball and ticking things over from an offensive perspective in ways that matter, but maybe don't necessarily directly relate to FPL points.
I don't know. I feel like he plays too. I want to say he plays too centrally for it to matter, but I don't know. My feeling generally with him is that like on that, it's more of that side. Who comes in on that side defensively? They have players who can fill in there. Yeah,
Calafiore is back too, so he's on the left usually.
Yep.
So Timber's on the right. So who would even come in then? Because Ben White's out.
Yeah, Ben White for sure is out. I don't know. I wish I knew more about their bench. Again, better podcast could tell you about that for sure.
That's what. Well,
Arsenal fan might be able to tell you more about that too. But either way, I don't think it's going to impact it enough.
Probably.
I don't think it'll impact it enough.
Tomiyasu's out. It's got to be Kivior. Or Zinchenko, I guess, has been playing back there, which, again, that's just...
It's not great.
It's got to be Kivior.
A guy I wish we could take seriously that we could talk about is Cody Gakpo. It just feels like it's not someone you can take seriously as a replacement in the forward line. He's had back-to-back returns. He's had 3 returns in the last 4 games, or if you go out 6 games, he's had 4 returns in the last 6. And he has started or gotten 60-plus minutes every game week since game week 12. Is that enough for you? Like, are you like, or is that even a remote consideration for you? Jesus at 6.8, Gakpo at 7.3. Is that close enough, or is Jesus still your like, I'm going to Jesus first?
Honestly, I don't think I'm going to Jesus. Dave didn't, by the way. I did look that up.
Okay.
Gakpo is interesting. I just don't know if the minutes are going to be there. The crazy part is that Slot seems committed to finding minutes for Darwin Nunez.
Okay.
Which isn't off the bench typically. It is, I'm going to start you, I'm going to play you, and I'm going to try and get as much out of you, and then we'll punt. Okay. Right? It's not coming off the bench, which means that Diaz is playing through the middle, which means Gakpo plays out on that left side, which is his preferred position and where he's getting those returns. If one of these times Nunez finds a vein of form, which is highly unlikely because he's been terrible, Diaz shifts out to the left, and now Gakpo's splitting time with Diaz, who was also super hot, right? So
I think that's the question is it feels like whether he's playing there or not, for all the minutes he gets, it feels like Darwin's not the forward solution for Slot.
I don't think he is. I agree with that. I think they're either going to figure it out or they're going to move on. I don't see them continuing this experiment too much longer. I think it's going to be a you don't fit. You may have fit before, but you don't fit now. Right. Sorry. And they've done everything they can. They've given him an opportunity. Diaz seems to be the better option. Now I said that, then he didn't play the next match.
Right. Wasn't that family related though?
He was on the bench.
Oh, he was. Okay.
He was on the bench. So he just didn't play. So as far as I'm concerned, I think again that, and then Darwin played, and they just basically gave him a run and tried to give him every opportunity to find form and to find confidence, and he just hasn't gotten there.
Yeah. For what it's worth, since game week 12, so in these, like, because he played even 57 minutes this last game, he was still fine. He got a return. But since game week 12, among forwards, Cody Gakpo has 39 points, which is third most of any forward. It's one more point than Chris Wood has.
Yeah, really.
Since game week
That's
12.
surprising.
Yeah. So
I mean, he's a lot more expensive than Chris Wood, though.
Yeah, but Chris Wood's closing the gap on popularity. So that's the thing. I wish it was the kind of thing where I'm like, oh, Chris Wood, because he's 6.7. So that's why I'm saying, like, Chris Wood, if you're buying right this second, it's a 0.6 difference. And if you're selling, like, depending on where you bought Cunha, like Cunha is 7.0 to buy right this second. So
is he?
Yeah, I have him to sell for 6.9. So
I'm on 6.7, so I was just trying to figure out. I've had him for a while.
I think that's the question. Would I rather have Wood and get myself 0.2 of a dollar, or would I rather spend 0.4 and go to Cody Gakpo? Wood's minutes probably more certain, I guess, but Gakpo playing for the clearly better attack. So, and what would I prefer? Wood playing, potentially full matches, 70, 80, 90 minutes or whatever, and Gakpo potentially a 57-minute substitute. So I don't know, man. I just feel like what he's done, like the output's been pretty good. He's in like the fifth place as far as shots and box touches and stuff like that. He's had a pretty good number of chances to score, and creatively he's been pretty good. Like he's still tied for 5th for chances created since game week 12 for forwards. So I just wonder with Cody Gakpo, like if he, like, I feel like he's a real quality player. I guess the question now with Jota healthy and Diaz playing pretty well and Darwin, like you say, getting the chance to score here and there, the chance to play. Does Gakpo, like, are we getting to a Gakpo, 21 minutes off the bench performance?
Yeah.
Compared to a 57 or 60 or 65 minutes.
Darwin's form and Jota coming back
he's tempting
is definitely going to affect
me
Gakpo.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely going to affect Gakpo in that Diaz is going to move out of the middle in order to make room for Jota. For sure at some stage, just because Jota has proven that he can be a consistent central. Basically play the 9.
But and I feel like for somebody like that's obviously benefiting Salah. Like Salah is just kind of cruising, but it feels like the complementary the teamwork here is everything's working going forward for them, and that's where like Gakpo's obviously benefiting. He's question scoring real points, and that's
he's
why I'm
finding
saying
space because everybody's gravitating towards Salah.
Yeah.
The defenses are packing in on Salah, trying to take away space, and it's opening up space for Gakpo to run into and cut back in on that.
Like I just think, I feel like the price is going to be the thing that's off-putting for
it's
Gakpo.
the same thing with Mateta, right? So Mateta was doing good things, and he was just a hair too expensive.
He is the 3rd most transferred in this week, though.
Is he? Interesting.
So people are buying. I just think if he had gotten a 1 and played 57 minutes and not scored a goal this week, like,
it was a little bit of a poachy goal, if you will, right? That he got. So I mean, just
Is Liverpool going to score 12 goals against this Manchester United team this week?
No.
Okay.
United plays tough against Liverpool. They dig deep and they find a way. Same as Everton. It's always interesting. They rarely capitulate.
It's United and then at Forest when they come back on January 14th. I don't know. The Forest game to me is built. That is
Liverpool needs to come back.
Tough game.
Yeah. I mean, until Arsenal play today, Forest it was second place.
Right.
They were they were the trailing pack. So I think Forest they're defensively stout. It's a good A good test for Liverpool to see how far they've progressed since they took their only loss to Nottingham Forest. So I think that Forest game was going to be interesting, but they're not going to get ahead of themselves. That United game is a big game, and they are dangerous. As bad as they have been, United is still dangerous.
Ollie Watkins just needed a 4-game break and for John Duran to get suspended, and he comes straight back with a goal and an assist and 12 points this game week.
Yeah.
8.8 super expensive.
You're not going there,
he's
right?
in 16% of teams. That's a lot.
It's got to be mostly dead teams, though, right, that had him from the start?
I'd like to think that. What's funny, in a segment we like to call What's Funny, even with those 4 games of rest for Ollie Watkins, since game week 15, so that's 4 games where he came off the bench, started this week for Duran, who's suspended. So that's 5 games. He's played 193 minutes. Just fewer minutes than Nicholas Fulkrug from West Ham has played more minutes than Ollie Watkins in the last 5 game weeks. Ollie Watkins has taken 11 shots, which is 5th most for forwards. He's taken 11 shots in 193 minutes. 4 shots on target, also tied for 5th. All 11 of his shots were in the box. That's 3rd best for forwards. 7th for touches in the opposition box. 22 touches in the box. And he's created 4 chances. So,
he's fine.
He's been like that. All of the stats for him, you can go...
Just nothing's rolling in.
Yeah, no matter where... you can draw the line wherever you want. Ollie Watkins' numbers are, top 5 across the board for forwards. Even in limited minutes, he's still pushing, that sort of level, which is really weird considering, how... I don't know, just the lack of sharpness. I don't know what you want to call it. Just an odd thing to me. It's weird with John Duran coming back from suspension in a couple weeks, so it feels like now they've canceled each other out. Duran was playing awesome and then gets a weird red card, and now he's suspended. So you can't really go. You can't go to him, but going to Watkins just because he had one good game, he's too expensive.
Doesn't make sense.
I don't know, man.
If you got him, hold him. If you don't, this doesn't make sense.
Goal this week for Raul. I don't know. I thought about going back there. He scored
because you sold him.
Yeah, he's good. That's the thing. He had great chances to score even in the games where Muniz was the one who comes in and gets the goal. So it's not like he hasn't done it. It's just this week he did score. People are done with Nicholas Jackson, which is shocking to me because...
He's on a run, but so is Chelsea.
Chelsea's fixtures didn't change. And I'm saying that knowing that they just finished 3 fixtures where they were supposed to do well and they did nothing. But it doesn't matter because their fixtures are still good going forward. I don't think it was entirely unexpected that he would get benched this week. 3 straight blanks, 2nd most transferred out. I just, if you're selling him for Isak, yes. If you're selling him for Chris Wood, probably okay. If you're selling him for Jesus, I don't know. That seems kind of sideways. I get the results weren't great, but last week, Jesus also had a 2.
One's going this way, one's going this way, right? The teams even too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that Chelsea, had a 0-0 draw at Everton, lost to Fulham, and lost to Ipswich.
Oh yeah, true.
That's just that doesn't shout confidence that they're
going
to turn it around.
But they're title contenders.
No, Maresca says they're not.
Right. So I guess that's what I'm saying. Going through all the choices that you are the obvious choices for Cunha. It's Pedro seems cheap and safe for starts. Chris Wood is going to keep making a mockery of everybody who doesn't have him. Yeah. But Chris Wood and Gabriel Jesus being 0.1 apart makes that a real choice now. Because Arsenal, like I said, what is it? Their next 7 games are games where you're I feel pretty good about the Arsenal attack in all 7 of those games.
Now, Forest doesn't have a terrible run of games here, right? I mean, Wolves
If you can
can
stomach,
be scored upon. Liverpool can be scored
if
upon.
You can stomach the Liverpool
Southampton
game,
can be scored upon. Bournemouth, like everybody they're playing can be scored on.
Right.
For the next 5-6 weeks easily. So I don't see a world where Chris Wood is not a consideration.
I think so. I would just say, like, for me, if I'm, because Cunha's probably getting sold, I need an attacker this week.
And you already own Chris Wood.
I do not own Chris Wood, but that's why I'm saying, like,
why not?
This is the considerations. It's like, because selling someone to make money is always a choice.
Yeah.
So I do need money. So going to Joao Pedro, like, that makes me the most money. I just don't like the matchup this week for Joao Pedro against Arsenal. I'm saying, like, for certainty of starts or whatever, it's Jesus, it's Chris Wood.
Yeah.
I just think these guys, like this narrow choice little decision here. And then I'm saying, like, I really do I triple up on Liverpool? I already have Trent. I have Salah. Why not go for the hat trick here and go for Cody Gakpo? I don't hate it. He's at 6.5% selected. It's just not. It's obviously not on anyone's radar. Jesus and Gakpo are extremely close in selection. Jesus at 7.1%.
Jesus is cheaper.
Where would you go? Do you believe in your own guys?
I really like Cody Gakpo. I really do. But I'd probably go with Jesus in that one.
All right. Okay. No, I think I might do that just because I know that Chris Wood has been the knee jerk for everybody for so long, and Jesus, I don't know.
Why not? Why not? Why not Chris Wood? It's not like nothing has changed for him. So why not Chris Wood? If the option is Jesus, Gakpo, or Chris Wood, it's Chris Wood. For me, it would be Chris Wood.
Yeah, it's the
I do need to find a solution, but I don't think I'm selling Cunha just because I got in so early. I'm going to lose money, and I won't be able to buy him back when he returns.
Weird. Jesus only coming in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. More people have transferred in Ollie Watkins this week than Gabriel Jesus. I'm not sure I follow the logic on that one, except that Villa play home to Leicester this week, and then they're at Everton. But I don't know that that's necessarily. That seems like a bit of a downer. Yeah. You're buying him for at Everton. I think, when does Duran come back? I think Duran does come back for Everton. I think he's available again for Everton.
He's
and
back.
And then they play Arsenal.
Yeah, he's back on the 15th.
If you're a wild carder, you're wild carding right now. You're making it. You're just doing that so that you're making a transfer in a couple weeks for Ollie Watkins. I suppose I guess I could get behind that, but whatever. Seems like a bad time. Next question, Travis, would be: where did we put it up there? That's the thin forward options. Oh yes, let's talk about the Saka replacements. We've had 2 weeks of Saka replacements, and many of them were okay.
Yeah.
Many
of them were not.
If you went Bruno Fernandes, if you went Dave's selection of James Maddison, if you went to Martin Odegaard, if you went to Alex Iwobi, or if you did like I did and went to Ismail Assar, you are not
all terrible.
If you went to the darlings from several weeks ago, Amad Diallo or Enzo Fernandez, you are also massively disappointed.
Or even Iwobi, for that matter. Yeah.
Madison benched the last 2 games, 26 minutes in each. Bruno, of course, red card against... who did he get that red card against? He finished with a -2. That was so fantastic 2 weeks ago.
He's
obviously
terrible.
Banned last week against Newcastle.
Wolves.
Iwobi playing great real-life football,
so
just
good.
not any FPL returns to show for it, right?
Yeah,
Odegaard, same deal. Ismail Assar, I've got some things I want to say about him in a second. All right, so just real quick to recap, Luis Diaz, you were furious with a 0 from him last week. Depending on who was first on your bench, you might have been really happy about it. But goal, clean sheet, 1 bonus point, and a 9 this week feels a lot better.
Yeah.
You expect that to continue. If for some reason you're one of the 12% of Saka remaining havers, are you selling him for Luis Diaz?
The issue with Diaz is going to be minutes, because there is no rhyme or reason as to when Slot decides he's going to play Jota in the 9, Diaz in the 9, or Nunez in the 9.
Luis Diaz currently the number 1 most transferred in for all midfielders. Do you agree with that? You understand it. Do you agree with it?
I am not moving in that direction.
Okay.
Now, I'm not good at this game, so that doesn't matter. Right. But again, it's about minutes, and I just you got a hot hand, you play it, right? You play it, and he's got Gakpo and Diaz who are both hot, along with Salah, obviously, right?
Yeah.
The major thing right here is another fixture pile up. Where things start coming thick and fast. They've got injuries that are starting to show up because of the stack up of fixtures. I just have a feeling that Diaz is going to end up in the situation where he doesn't play like 2 weeks ago more often than some of the other options.
When they come back, so. We didn't really talk about this, but Liverpool. So they have their cup fixture on the January the 11th, ahead of the Nottingham Forest away game. 4 days later, they go to Brentford, which I don't think anybody's really nervous about that. But then 3 days after that, you're back to Europe, which then 4 days after that, you're home to Ipswich. How is there not some kind of rotation? Because then you've got PSV right after Ipswich. It just seems like you've got you're very right about fixture pile up. It seems like this pile up right here. I
think Nunez and Jota are going to get more minutes than they have been getting, and that's going to be at the expense of Diaz and Gakpo.
Okay, so that probably answers the transfer question. We probably could have covered that one segment ago. Newcastle midfielders. Anthony Gordon is your number 2 most transferred in. I would love to talk seriously about Jacob Murphy, but I don't think we can. Anthony Gordon, 4 straight returns.
Yeah.
Goal and 3 assists in the last 4 weeks. Other than his 1-pointer against Brentford in game week 15, he's had returns in every game since game week 13. 2 goals, 4 assists total. In that time, I believe only Jacob Murphy and Salah have outscored him. He is on a roll right now. You don't love 6s, though. He is the king of a 6. And so that's the thing with him where I'm like, I don't necessarily...
I'd rather have a 6 than a 2, obviously.
Yeah. Who wouldn't?
I rode Gordon for a really long time and then punted to try and make room for Palmer. Originally to make room for Saka and then later for Palmer. I honestly kind of, after the last 3 weeks of Palmer not doing anything, kind of almost rather would have Gordon than Palmer right now.
Man, that is some guts if you go.
I'm just saying, just because of the way that things have been.
Yeah, for sure. Since game week 13, Anthony Gordon is 5th for shots among midfielders. He's 6th for touches in the opposition box among midfielders. He's 3rd for chances created. 17 chances created for Anthony Gordon since game week 13, which is fantastic.
It's all just him breaking away and then slipping somebody in.
Reliable is obvious.
Yeah,
consistent. Word that comes to mind with him, but I just don't know. He's capable of double digits, but feels way more like he's in the 6 to 8 range every week with whatever he's doing. But still, you like that kind of consistency. And like we said, holy cow, Newcastle, whatever they've locked into here is seriously working. So much that Jacob Murphy since he got back in the starting 11 in game week 14, I know we're jumping around here with like starting points or whatever, but this is where Jacob Murphy came in, game week 14. Since then, among midfielders, he is second only to Mo Salah in points. 44 points since game week 14 for Jacob Murphy. Third, 3 goals for him. Only Cole Palmer has scored more goals than him, and 4 assists. Only Mo Salah has more assists than him since game week 14. Like, he's not huge on volume, so 15 shots is fine. 3 shots on target from him. Yes, that's right, Travis, and I know if the spirit of Dave is hearing it. 3 goals since game week 14 on 3 shots on target. My favorite stat of all stats. 5 big chances to score, second only to Mo Salah. Like, what? Where was this when he was a first week darling, when he was doing this in the preseason?
Incredible.
Yeah. The only thing I can say is, like, he's getting the minutes, and he's making the most of the opportunity. He's 5.1. Like if in a world where Morgan Rogers didn't exist, and Morgan Rogers doesn't keep performing, which he does.
Yeah.
I guess, like, if you are one of the Enzo owners or a Amad Diallo owner, and you're watching Jacob Murphy just completely thrash them in scoring every week, why aren't you moving? Like, Morgan Rogers, I know he's up to 5.5. That's still low, but Jacob Murphy, 5.1, just crushing. He would be in competition though with Anthony Elanga. That would be the kind of the next.
There. Yeah, that's a good point.
Is the Nottingham Forest is rolling too, so Morgan Gibbs-White has returns in 4 of his last 5 games. Elanga's got returns in 4 straight. Either of those guys, like, I don't know how to feel about Nottingham Forest, except I feel happy that they're good. Like, I'm glad that there's another like not expected team who just is
I wish it wasn't
really
them,
well,
because they're kind of shady.
Okay.
Their owner's weird.
Okay,
the amount of money that they spent was obnoxious. Their stadium is electric, and their fan base is great. But it is good to have somebody else in the mix for sure. That is not expected.
The thing also with them is with Elanga and Morgan Gibbs-White, like, neither of them have numbers that overwhelm you. So neither guy is like basically you're buying the Nottingham Forest experience with both guys. Like, the points are good. So in the last 5 game weeks, for example, like the Morgan Gibbs-White, 4 of 5, he's getting you a return, 39 points. You love that. Yeah. He's the 3rd highest scoring midfielder after Jacob Murphy and Mo Salah. 2 goals, 3 assists. You love that. He's only taken 7 shots. He's only put 4 shots on target. He's only created 8 chances. That's not, like, lots of players have created that many chances. So, like, but they're creating quality. And I think that's the thing with Elanga. Like, 3 goals and an assist in the last 4 games. You know, he's right up there with Jacob Murphy. He's right up there with all the other guys as far as scoring goes. Extremely efficient. 7 shots, 6 shots on target, 3 goals. But, like, it just feels like that's the kind of thing, like, I'm not so eager to run after that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I trust Nottingham Forest. Everyone's going to, like, Ola Aina, and Milenkovic is back up there again with, like, he's in the top. I think he's in the top 5 for, like, defender transfers in. But I don't know. There's something with these midfielders where I'm like, I don't really want to go there with, like, I don't know. I mean, do you feel like do you feel like you have room in your team for another guy that's just over $5?
No. No. I mean, the bottom line here is there are very expensive options, and the cheap ones are hit or miss, with the exception of Jacob Murphy.
Yeah.
Right? And so the hit or miss guys, it wasn't a boom or bust. It was, hey, they're gonna do it, they're gonna do it, and then they drop off, right?
Yeah.
Morgan Rogers, we were saying the same thing about him for how many weeks? He's gonna do it, he's gonna do it, he's gonna do it, and then he didn't.
His underlying stuff was great. Yeah,
and then he did.
Yeah.
Right. So is Jacob Murphy, statistically doing the same things that Rogers was, or that Fernandez? We're like, oh, he's ready, or Iwobi, he looks the part.
I think what's hard with Morgan Rogers is like when they had their dip in form. So Aston Villa gets thrashed by Spurs. They lose to Liverpool. They get a draw against Crystal Palace, and they get thrashed by Chelsea. So there's that 5-game run actually, if you count the draw against Bournemouth, where Villa, the form dropped. In there, Morgan Rogers gets a goal.
Yeah.
After that, though, like since then, the form has picked up, and they've got he's gone goal blank blank. Goal assist, blank, goal assist. So like the quality of the player, that has been the thing with him. Villa fans, anyone that's watched him, it's never been an issue of the guy's quality has dropped. It's not that. He's obviously a quality player. But I just think for 5.2, the fact that he's, in the last 3 game weeks now has gone double digits twice again. And he's done that, he's gotten you double digits once prior to this. The guy, obviously he's picking up slack in places that, without John Duran, whatever.
Yeah.
But you're not doing anything. He's still a target player. He's still a guy that you're going after, not a guy that you're trying to move on from. I'm just saying, comparatively, we've seen it. That Morgan Gibbs-White is good. That Nottingham Forest is a quality team, whatever. Elanga, we said it at the end of last season. Kyle Hudson-Odoi, who's been injured, he was also a consideration for a minute, whenever he was fit. But, I'm not sure what to do because then, I would say, Eberechi Eze. Eze's back in the team. Eze scores a goal on 6 shots this week. 6 is the second most of any number of shots that anyone took. I said last week, if I was just money was no object or whatever, and I was picking between Sarr or Eze, Eze would have been a consideration. I had Sarr on my team.
Yeah.
Eze is a little bit, he's more expensive, but
more likely to do something.
He's on penalties, and the quality, you've seen the quality of him, and so I think that's the kind of the decision making in here is a little bit trickier than just Nottingham Forest is in 3rd place or whatever, so we got to get into Nottingham Forest,
But it's why are they in 3rd place, right?
Yeah,
that's really the issue for me is they are getting performances out of their defense and out of players like Gibbs-White and Chris Wood.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, their supporting cast is not, it is exactly that. It's a supporting cast, right? It's guys are popping up at different moments and doing what they need to do, save for the defense, Gibbs-White, and Chris Wood. Right? So going with a Elanga or or even Gibbs-White for that matter is a risk. It's a risk. So
yeah, and I would say Sarr was my choice a couple weeks ago. This week, he finished with 3 shots. He created 4 chances. His total expected goal involvement was over 1 this week, and so I don't think he's a bad choice just because he blanked. He's still, the performances have still been excellent. The guy I wanted Dave to give me some confirmation bias on Martinelli.
Yeah.
2, scored in 2 of the last 3, 2 bonus points today for him. In the last 3 games, only Mo Salah has had more touches in the opposition box than Martinelli. Not great with the chances created, but I don't really think I'm trying to do that with him. I feel like it's more about scoring, the fact that he's getting into scoring positions, but
he's always on a post, right? Like I feel like every goal he scores is because he's tucked in and sneaking something in at the near post every single friggin' time.
Yeah, I am really curious with him. I feel like the security of minutes with him now too. I mean, he'd already, like, despite lackluster performances, he never dropped out of the starting lineup not once this season. So that if anything, maybe that's a little more concerning that he has barely rested. But I think that's the kind of thing like no, I'm sorry, that's not true. He has rested. Why isn't
he had a
heck? Why is he so low? Martinelli is barely cracking the top 30 for midfielder transfers in. He was out in game weeks 12 and 13. But for the most part, even in even prior to that, he hasn't not a ton of rest for him over the course of the season. But now either way, I think playing a lot better. He's the kind of guy like, if I had to move on, that's the thing. Like that's my decision. I think the tough decision is Bruno Fernandes, Manchester United. It went from
bye.
Well, it went from get everybody. Are they back? And now all of a sudden it's doomsday. Are they going to get relegated? And Bruno Fernandes, after
when your manager comes out and says you're on relegation form,
right?
Let's be honest.
So. Anyway, I think after, out of all of that, all of the Saka replacements, all of the people that you put in there, if you put in one of these guys who, even for Dave, if he has James Maddison in his team, Maddison's not bad. It's just Spurs are just dismal right now.
Yeah.
Everything with them is just there's so much uncertainty. The fact that a guy who's one of their top scoring players, still one of the top scoring midfielders on the season, has the possibility of getting benched in back-to-back games and playing just 26 minutes. So, that's really frustrating. Again, that you just talked about a little bit ago. Fulham's run of fixtures here, having Iwobi and Raul Jimenez and Anthony Robinson or Castagna or whoever, however you want to sort those guys out, it's not bad. Fulham's about to go on as good of a run of fixtures as anyone in the league. So, I
agree with that.
Moving to Iwobi, despite the fact that he's blanked, he just did it a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's
that whole same thing as what you were trying to do with Rodgers with. He's not doing what he needs to do from a points perspective, but from a stats perspective, he's right there.
Yeah.
So the only thing I hear what you're saying, and I fell into it because I really enjoy watching Iwobi play. He looks dangerous, but it's the same thing as the many years of listening to you talk about Harvey Barnes, right?
Well,
all the stats. He's gonna come good. And he just never ever did.
Still love Harvey Barnes. I wish Harvey the best of luck. I hope Harvey gets back.
I hope he's listening right now.
Yeah,
and
Harv,
he got the card that you sent him for Christmas.
My phone still autocorrects to all caps with exclamation points on when I type Harv. If I ever have to type that to anybody, so no, that's the whole debate with this every time is where do you buy into the underlying numbers? Where do you take a chance on somebody who hasn't produced yet in the hopes of catching lightning in a bottle, I suppose. But,
well, if we knew, we would be a much better podcast.
Absolutely. I think that's it. I would love to go into defense. I don't really feel I feel like there's not a lot. There are guys that are obvious choices. I feel like there are players you might be, you're trying to find some money, whatever, to get, Trent finally had a huge game. Lewis Hall was on my bench. I buried him on my bench, so I missed out on it.
Continue to have good matches. Lewis Hall is a good one to pick up. Robinson is on hot form still.
I still don't see a whole lot of difference. I get like Ola Aina, like, whatever, scored the goal a couple weeks ago, got 2 bonus points this week, and Milinkovic got 0 bonus points. So I get it. It's still now though at this point it's a 0.5 difference.
Yeah.
And I insist the numbers between the two of them, attacking wise, skew heavily in favor of Milinkovic, but I get it. Aina's the number 1 scoring defender in the game. I can't argue with that.
Difference of 12 points, yeah.
But yeah, like there's, Ryan Aitnori playing the greatest prank ever in history after his performance against Spurs.
Yeah. And he had the clean sheet against United right before that too. So
I'm not totally crazy about going to Arsenal defense. And I think this week was a good example why the fixtures are tough. They're good for the attack. I don't know how good they are for the Arsenal defense. We didn't even talk about Brian Mbumo as a replacement for people like
price went up tonight.
I'm not surprised by that. Again, their fixtures are about to be quite good. But they go back to back? Don't they do Arsenal and Liverpool or Arsenal and Manchester City or something? Or they did Manchester City.
Yeah, they have Arsenal. They have Southampton this week, and then City at home, then Liverpool at home.
Okay, yeah, so that's,
and then Crystal Palace away, and then Tottenham at home.
You don't love the back-to-back City and Liverpool matches. They can get it in there. They can.
Yeah. Both. Depending on if Konate's back by match week 22, Liverpool is definitely there too. They're the weakest they've been in a while, especially defensively.
But yeah, Trent finally got his blow-up game this week, and that feels like the one guy that could blow up all of your plans.
You know what's crazy, though, is he didn't look awesome.
Okay.
The goal was a massive deflection. Happy to have it.
Right.
He was obviously trying to shoot, so it was a goal. But he looks distracted.
He's gone.
Definitely affected by it, and I agree. I do think he's gone. And
you believe all the reports? You believe
not all the reports,
agreement
but
to him going to Real Madrid?
No, I don't believe that, but I do believe that there is substantial talk of that occurring. There is official confirmation that Real made an offer to Liverpool to take him in January.
Okay.
Believed to be really low, but it was like 15 million euros or something like that.
That's super low.
It's like ridiculous. All that to say, I'm worried about how that plays into or affects his form moving into the end of the season.
Okay.
So I'm not getting carried away with this match.
You don't have him?
I do not.
I do have him.
He's too expensive.
Yeah.
I don't know. The only way you're able to afford him is you don't have Haaland.
Right.
For sure. I mean that's really what it comes down to. I'm still holding Haaland as per our conversation last week, which worked out well for me this week. Looking at his face, did you see after he scored?
I feel like I did.
It was like one of those like most like clear pictures of the emotions a person was feeling, where you could just see it on their face. He was so relieved, so happy, and like ready to go again. Right? Like I really hope for his sake that this is the thing that spurs him on, just because they have no chance at winning the title at this point.
Well, that was the first match at Leicester. That was the first one where if anyone was going to put up a list of like, hey, look at Manchester City's upcoming fixtures, it was Leicester, West Ham, Brentford, Ipswich. This 4 in a row. Home Chelsea, at Arsenal. After that, not like ideal. I think after the Ipswich game, you'd have some tough choices to make. But
yeah. So all that to say, it's just.
All right, so what moves are you definitely making?
So I I'm probably gonna have to take a hit this week again.
Oh, come on.
I did the thing that we say not to do, and I made a transfer before we had all the information.
Okay.
So I am dealing with both Rodgers and Cunha being out. I went from Mazrari to Robinson.
Okay.
Already to try and catch the Robinson to keep. I wouldn't have been able to do that move if I would have waited, basically, because I would have been priced out of Robinson at that point. So that's already done. But now I have $0 in the bank, and I don't have enough players to play, essentially, because of the way my bench is set up. So I'm gonna probably have to take a hit to move somebody on, and I don't know who that's gonna be.
Okay. I have, again, it's Cunha. The two that I would consider that I need to move in some way are, it's either Bruno or Cunha. I think
Bruno's got to be the choice, right? That's a lot of money tied there.
I think the big thing is, because as bad as Manchester United has been,
are they going to get a penalty? Because he would take it
at Liverpool. I might play him and just take whatever I get. His price can't drop because of the red card.
That.
And then and then in 21, coming back from the break, like if he gets an assist, let's say he gets an assist against at Liverpool, they come back and play Southampton at home.
Yeah.
So that's and it's Southampton, Brighton, Fulham, Crystal Palace in the weeks after that. Like it's not Fulham away is tougher. But three of the four when they coming back after the break here are their home games. So I'm not like, it's not like the kind of thing where I'm like, I got to get this bum out of my team. I think
he's not a bad one to have, but where would you go? Where would you go if you were moving?
So that's the thing in midfield. Out of all the players that we talked about, I almost did it earlier today where I was like, I want to get Mbeumo before the price goes up. But then I looked at it and I'm like, well,
why? It doesn't matter.
It's mostly chasing after the 1 week coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Not crazy about the matchups for Brentford in the 2 weeks after that.
Yeah.
Where I'm looking at Arsenal, I'm like, I just talked myself into the Arsenal schedule here where I'm like, if I did Cunha to Jesus, it's basically even money.
Yeah.
I just hold on to Bruno, just take what I get against Liverpool, and just get kind of get in on the
Liverpool,
get in on the Arsenal attack.
Do you have Jacob Murphy right now?
No, I don't.
Why not Bruno to Jacob Murphy and then bathe in the money that you have saved?
That's an option. Even if I went from Bruno to Anthony Gordon, it's still almost $1.
Another great option.
Right. So it's something like that. The bigger priority to me is, like, I know for sure Cunha is suspended for 2 games. So Bruno's back from suspension. I don't love the matchup against Liverpool. I do like the matchup against Southampton. So that's the tougher thing. Like so far this year, like there, and especially in a week where it's not like there's anyone that's like glaring. Like like we said with forwards, Chris Wood is a good choice. He has been all season, but Jesus in this schedule, you kind of know what you're going to get from the Arsenal. At least you know where he fits as far as Arsenal is concerned. Also a good choice. And I honestly don't hate the idea of making a couple dollars, like almost $1, going from Cunha to Joao Pedro. Like
even though the numbers
aren't fantastic, like he is there presumably as long as he's on the pitch, he's the penalty taker. So it's another guy where I'm like, I don't hate it. It's just there's nothing this week where I'm like, oh, it's got to be that guy. It's not like it was with Isak a few weeks ago where it's like I've blown it and I am correcting that right now. That guy's back in my team, or what I should have done with Salah in week 7. You know what I mean? Like it should have been like, no, I'm going straight back to that guy. What was I thinking? But anyway, priority I think is Cunha out, and I wouldn't honestly be surprised if it ends up being, especially now when I see that Jesus is not as high on the transfer in
He becomes
list.
a differential for you.
Yeah, I kind of like it more. So anyway,
are you going to rectify your captain mistake, or are you going to stick with Palmer?
I think that Mo Salah pretty well owns Manchester United. I can't imagine captaining anyone other than Mo Salah, especially because it's a home. Especially because it's a home game.
Gotta love a home captain. Yeah. They're on a good vein of form. Here's the thing: Salah is just is incredible right now. But don't forget that he did have a really terrible history against United until he broke that duck, and then they just started rolling in. He's still in that, and just saying, like, there's some hoodoo there that did exist, but he seems to have found a way. So I agree. I think Salah is the captain. I don't know that you move it off of that.
I don't hate Isak at Spurs. I think Isak is playing he's playing at such a high level. Look at since game week 14, he's had a bonus point in every single game.
At least one. Yeah.
Regardless of he scores one goal or whatever, he's getting bonus, and he's had multiple bonus points in all but one of those games. Like, it's just a crazy run that Isak's been on.
Yeah.
I think it's just because it's away, it's a little less enticing.
And Spurs are hard to get to put a finger on.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, I think Salah again is like runaway favorite captain, but whatever. Right. If you were a complete lunatic and you want to believe in any way about a Manchester City resurgence, home to West Ham is where it could be. We've talked about it before.
I'm a dummy and I've been holding them. So,
look, it could happen one of these weeks where he goes for a brace or whatever, and Salah gets like an assist, and all of a sudden it's like you're not thinking about swapping them, but you are maybe thinking about, is there
wild
a way
card
for
so I can
me
get
to
him back
get
in?
up? How do I get back up to that? So, I don't know. Just doesn't feel like it. Feels like they've been so far off the fantasy radar for so long. I just can't see it happening. But whatever. I think that's it. There's a lot of other things we could talk about, but we've talked about enough things to help you make decisions if you're listening. So, Travis,
Brian,
thanks for having me tonight.
I don't remember how we closed this.
Normally, Dave just says, "Is there anything else we need to talk about?"
Yeah. Do you have any final thing? What's the one last thing?
No, nothing. I genuinely have nothing else. We covered everything that I wanted to talk about.
And I never have anything, so
I think that's it. We'll be back again next week with Dave. He should be, presumably, everything should be fine coming back from Hilton Head, South Carolina. If you're in Hilton Head, try to find the bald guy with the goatee and say hi. No, he has a full beard.
Full beard, yeah.
Say hi to him, and he should be back with us next week. So, for the FPL America podcast, this is Brian and Travis.
Until next time.
Until next time.
Until next time.
That's it.